Ya, halo, apa kabar semuanya? Saya harap Anda dalam keadaan sehat dan juga baik. Kembali lagi bersama saya Andi Irawan dari Jalin Realty Internasional dan sebentar lagi saya juga akan ditemani oleh Mr. Choon Chong, seorang ekspertis di bagian teks di Australia. Dan biasanya para investor Jalin Realty akan menggunakan jasa konsultan dari Mr. Choon Chong tersebut. Oke, baik. Saya akan share sedikit mengenai isi atau konten dari webinar hari ini. Yaitu saya akan menjelaskan mengenai siapa itu Jalin Realty Internasional. Kemudian saya juga akan share salah satu proyek dan bukan hanya proyek yang baru saja dibangun. Tapi proyek ini sudah ada dan sudah siap secara terima. Dan kita bisa melakukan nomination. Istilah kata pertukaran nama dari pemilik yang pertama ke pemilik yang baru. Dan keuntungannya dari nomination adalah Anda akan mendapatkan stamp duty rebate atas properti tersebut. Kemudian, saya juga akan menjelaskan mengenai sedikit mengenai market di Australia dan juga diteruskan oleh Mr. Choon Chong mengenai apa itu AscendPoint sendiri dan juga ke materinya pada hari ini yaitu adalah mengenai update dari Australia Property Tax di 2021. Baik, sebelumnya saya akan share sedikit mengenai Jalin Realty Internasional. Jalin Realty adalah salah satu agen properti yang khusus untuk properti di Australia. Dan kita bukan hanya melayani dalam artian sampai dengan penjualan, tapi kita akan memberikan end-to-end solution. Pengertiannya adalah dari mulai pemberian proyek sampai dengan penjualan, sampai juga nanti dengan pada saat serah terima, kita juga akan bantu klien tahap-tahapan yang harus dilakukan. Dan Anda tidak perlu untuk pulang pergi ke Australia karena cukup dilakukan di Indonesia saja, kita akan bantu semuanya. Setelah properti Anda serah terima, siapa yang menyewakan? Jalin Realty memiliki property manager yang akan membantu dalam hal sewa menyewa properti Anda. Oke. Setelah sewa menyewa, Anda terpikir untuk ingin menjual kembali properti Anda. Anda akan cari siapa? Kembali ke Jalin Realty. Karena Jalin Realty memiliki tim resale atau kita dapat membantu Anda untuk menjual kembali unit Anda di Australia. Our mission is making the world is our home. Dan kita bisa lihat sendiri bahwa Jalin Realty itu ada di beberapa negara seperti di Melbourne, Indonesia seperti saat ini, Singapura, Kuala Lumpur, Hong Kong, dan Beijing. Dan pada saat-saat seperti ini atau pandemi seperti ini, Anda tahu bahwa tidak ada batasan istilah kata ruang dan waktu lagi. Semua bisa dilakukan secara digital dan juga semua bisa dilakukan tanpa harus kita ke mana-mana. Contohnya, jika Anda ingin membeli properti di Australia, Anda tidak perlu langsung datang ke Australia sendiri, tapi melalui dengan Jalin Realty, kita dapat membantu semuanya sehingga semuanya dapat kita selesaikan. Sebentar lagi saya akan share mengenai Jalin Company Profile.
总部位于澳大利亚墨尔本的佳宁国际是一家专注于房地产服务的专业机构。创立至今的30多年来，佳宁国际以德为本，以诚立身，辛勤耕耘，积累了丰富的房产物业投资经验，足迹遍布了澳大利亚、中国、新加坡、马来西亚、印尼、文莱和香港等国家和地区。30多年来，佳宁始终坚持着公司的愿景与理念，以职业道德为价值观，帮助每一位客户成功置业澳洲。
佳宁国际地产公司能从马来西亚、印度尼西亚、新加坡、澳大利亚和中国持续成长30多年，是全靠佳宁长期坚持公司的理念和愿景而来。佳宁是个专业的服务公司， 我们的平台是通过房地产这个渠道，制造许多实际与可靠的机会，与大家分享，让大家生活变得更美好。
Our core values are derived from the word ethics, and we break it into excellence in performance, teamwork among our employees, honesty in our business dealings, integrity and innovation in our actions, commitment towards our work, and sincere relationship.
与澳洲数百家开发商均有着长期而稳定的友好合作，其代理的众多地产项目遍布悉尼、墨尔本、布里斯班、黄金海岸、珀斯等首府城市。优越的地段、舒适便捷的生活环境、具有竞争力的价格，每一个项目都经过筛选。成熟的团队和后期服务部门，也为佳宁的客户提供了舒心的投资体验。客户的认可是对佳宁最大的鼓励。每一位佳宁人将始终坚持佳宁的愿景与理念，不断提高自身专业水平和服务，祝您更加安心的置业澳洲。佳宁国际，圆您澳洲梦。
We are Charlie Melbourne. We are Charlie Shanghai.
We are Charlie Beijing.
We are Charlie Singapore. We are Charlie Jakarta.
We are Charlie Indonesia.
Baik, ini adalah our team around the globe. Kita ada kantor di Australia di Melbourne, Hong Kong, Indonesia, Singapura, China, dan Malaysia. Sebelum saya lanjut kembali dengan presentasi saya ingin sekedar mengingatkan bahwa jika Anda ingin bertanya, ada kolom chat di dalam room ini yang Anda bisa ketik untuk Anda tanyakan. Dan ini adalah our business partner yang bekerjasama dengan Jalin Realty, one of the biggest land lease, Murphy, Fraser, dan lain sebagainya. Oke, saya akan share sedikit mengenai state budget for Victoria di 2021. Kenapa saya selalu mengingatkan lagi mengenai ini? Karena begitu besar kontribusi dari pemerintah di Australia untuk memajukan ekonomi. Seperti kita lihat sendiri bahwa sekitar 600 juta Aussie dollar akan digunakan untuk menciptakan lapangan kerja yang baru. Kemudian sekitar 3 miliar akan digunakan untuk memperoleh bidang pendidikan. Dan juga 836 juta Aussie dollar akan digunakan untuk pengurangan pajak. Nah, dengan pajak ini nanti mungkin Mr. Choon Chong akan menjelaskan lebih lanjut lagi mengenai pengurangan pajak apakah sih yang akan diberlakukan di tahun 2021 ini. Dan yang tidak kalah penting untuk para investor adalah adanya stamp duty diskon. Biaya balik nama akan didiskon sebanyak 50% sejak pembelian di bulan November tahun 2020 sampai dengan bulan Juli 2021. Kemudian kurang lebih ada 10 miliar mereka akan membangun new train lines dan juga akan mengupgrade train station dan juga tram. Di sini kita bisa lihat bahwa struktur atau istilah kata fasilitas di suatu state tersebut sudah semakin diperbarui dan diperbaharui lagi. Di mana kita tahu sendiri bahwa jika transportasi, akomodasi semuanya sudah tercipta, maka semua itu akan menjadi kota yang paling ternyaman. Jadi untuk apa pikir 1 atau 2 kali lagi untuk berinvestasi di properti Australia? Saya akan sedikit share mengenai Queen's Place, yaitu salah satu proyek apartemen berlokasi di Queen Street. Dan letaknya itu adalah dekat dengan CBD Melbourne atau memang di CBD Melbourne. Kita bisa lihat sini ada 2 tower Queen's Place, tapi yang baru jadi hanya tower yang pertama dan sampai saat ini total bangunan sampai dengan level 43. Queen's Place ini dideveloper oleh 3L Alliance, kemudian ada arsiteknya dan juga ada builder multiplex, dan juga total dari bangunan ini adalah 83 lantai. Kemudian jumlah dari unit yang ada di sana adalah sebanyak 819 unit, tergabung dari 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, dan 3 bedroom. Dan juga price range-nya dimulai dari harga 420 sampai dengan 1 juta atau 3 juta untuk penthouse-nya. Di sini saya ingin share bahwa terkadang investor properti lokal sering berpikir bahwa apabila kita invest properti pada saat sudah mau jadi, pasti harga akan naik. Untungnya di Australia sendiri tidak menganut sistem seperti itu. Tidak ada dalam artian harga yang digoreng-goreng, setiap bulan naik, setiap minggu naik, tidak ada. Tapi mereka itu adalah pada saat awal mereka jual launching, sampai dengan jadi, harga akan tetap sama, tidak ada perubahan, tidak ada kenaikan. Karena mereka tetap akan konsisten di harga itu. Kemudian setelah bangunan jadi, ya kan, baru nanti ada kenaikan. Dan kita bilang kenaikan di Australia tidak bisa seperti seheboh di Indonesia. Kita tahu bahwa kenaikan properti di Australia sekitar 8-10%. Makanya secara data statistik, properti Australia itu akan double value-nya sekitar 8-10 tahun. Mereka akan double. Tapi yang paling menarik dari properti Australia adalah cara bayarnya, atau kita bilang payment scheme-nya, yaitu cukup DP 10% di awal dan tidak perlu bayar apa-apa lagi sampai dengan bangunan jadi. Let's say kita lihat harga properti sekitar 5 miliar. Indonesia, jika kita ingin memiliki properti tersebut, maka kita harus istilah kata ada cicilan bertahap. Kita cicil bertahap 2 tahun, 3 tahun sampai dengan cicilan kita udah lunas. Apakah bangunan sudah jadi? Ya, Anda kalau pengalaman sebagai investor di Indonesia, bangunan tersebut belum jadi dan masih tahap bangun. Kelarnya kapan? Estimasi sekitar 2, 3, atau 4 tahun lagi kemungkinan bisa jadi. Jadi di sana ada uang yang idle atau istilah kata tidak terpakai secara time value of money. Tapi di properti Australia adalah jika kita ingin menginvestasikan properti senilai 5 miliar, Anda cukup bayar 10% di awal, kemudian 20% pada saat serah terima, dan sisanya pengeluaran pinjaman. Maksudnya adalah sekitar 30% dari 5M, atau 1,5 M dari 5M itu modal Anda untuk memiliki properti di Australia. Setelah itu, sisanya Anda bisa menggunakan pinjaman di Australia. Dan warga negara asing dapat melakukan pinjaman di Australia dan tidak masalah. Ini adalah sekilas mengenai beberapa level dari Queen's Place Project. Dimulai dari bawah lobby, kemudian dia juga ada retail, kemudian di level 3 dia ada townhouse dan juga ada commercial gym. Di level 4 kita memiliki ada games rooms, ada billiard room, ada karaoke room, ada cigar room dan lain sebagainya. Kemudian di level 5 itu baru ada pool dan teras. Setelah level 5 ke atas itu baru properti atau unit Anda di sana. Begitu. Jadi developer 3L Alliance tidak hanya memikirkan hanya apartemen saja, tapi memikirkan juga mengenai kebutuhan dari penghuni tersebut. Jika ingin berbelanja ada retail, jika ingin kumpul-kumpul di sana, nanti ada juga coffee house atau restoran di bawahnya. Jika kita ingin melakukan aktivitas seperti gym dan pool, juga tersedia di sana. Saya akan share sedikit mengenai video dari Queen's Place. Oke. Di sini saya ada share 2 pilihan unit yang kita akan tawarkan untuk klien Jalin Realty, yaitu tipe one bed, one bath plus study room. Dengan luasan 62,2 square meter, dengan price kurang lebih sekitar 563.000, dan jika Anda melihat price per square meternya, yaitu hanya 9.051 Aussie dollar. Dan unit ini menghadap ke utara. Anda bisa lihat bahwa dalam unit ini, Anda juga bisa menjadikan 2 bed, 1 bath. Karena study room di sini luasnya bisa kita maksimalkan menjadi kamar tidur kedua. Kemudian next unit saya akan share juga di level 22, yaitu lot 2212, di mana tipe inilah tipe 2 bed 2 bathroom dengan size sebesar 74,2 square meter dengan price 760.000. Yang tadi saya bilang ya, bahwa properti Australia Anda hanya pikirkan 30% dari unit, tidak perlu memikirkan nilai total seluruhnya. Jadi cukup hanya 30% saja. Kurang lebih sekitar 2,5 M lah untuk modal Anda mendapatkan properti senilai 7,6 miliar. Kemudian, price per square meter untuk 2 bed 2 bathroom ini adalah 10.243. Kita bisa lihat di sini bahwa dari mulai kita masuk ke unit, itu ada private sendiri, tidak bisa langsung ke living room. Kita lewat sedikit ke kanan bahwa Anda melihat ada dining, living, ya kan, kemudian ada master bedroom dan second bedroom. Ini tipikal yang sangat disukai oleh penduduk lokal di Australia. Karena kita lihat sendiri bahwa unitnya adalah memiliki full dari kaca. Dari mulai kamar master bedroom, kamar kedua, sampai juga dengan living, dining, and the kitchen, kita bisa lihat view yang sangat luas. Oke, sebentar lagi saya akan share juga, Mr. Choon Chong akan share mengenai update dari Australia Tax 2021. Halo Mr. Choon Chong.
Hi, Andy.
Yeah, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. So maybe you can share a bit about the update for the tax in Australia nowadays.
Definitely. So I'm going to stop your slide and I'm going to put on my slide. Okay.
Yeah.
First of all, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone and hope everyone is having a great Saturday. So today I'm going to share with everyone a bit about Australian taxes. Okay, so today we'll talk about, before we do that, I'm going to just give a quick introduction about myself. My name is Choon. I'm a partner at AscendPoint. I'm a chartered accountant and also a certified practicing accountant as well in Australia. I'm a registered tax agent with the Australian Taxation Office too. Our firm, we are a chartered accounting firm. We are based in Victoria, Melbourne, but we can help all of our clients as long as you have any taxes in Australia. We'll be able to help you, whether you invest in Victoria, New South Wales, or Perth, because we deal with federal taxes, and therefore anything in Australia, we'll be able to assist you. Our firm has 4 main areas of focus: tax and accounting. This is where we help our client to do tax planning, tax structuring, helping you all to decide what is the best structure to invest your property or to run a business. Naturally, that leads to also preparation and lodgement of tax returns. We can help you with all the different structures. For example, using an Australian company, family trust, unit trust, and obviously also including SMSF, which is what we call self-managed super fund in Australia. Growth solutions, franchising solutions, and outsourcing solutions, these are for our local clients, specifically for our local SME clients, small, medium enterprises that run businesses in Australia. This is where we'll help our local clients to grow their business a bit more, to help them to achieve more profitability and to expand their business. For clients or even investors or migrants who say, oh, I would like to purchase, let's say, a franchise business in Australia, we'll be able to help you to do the right due diligence to ensure that the franchise that you're purchasing has good value in it and it is going to be a good profitable business. And lastly, for the outsourcing solutions, this is where we help our SME clients to fully outsource their accounting function, that they do not need to worry about having an in-house accountant, and we'll be able to do that, and even adding on what we call our virtual CFO services for our clients too. One of our most important slides today, I'm going to share with everyone a case study. So please do not regard that as any tax or legal advice, because each and every single investors will have a very, very unique personal situation. So today, I'm going to talk about a couple of things. First of all, what is your real tax obligation when you invest in Australian investment property? Then what is the lodgement date? When does the tax office expect you to lodge your tax return? I'll go through a simple case study. I will talk about the effective tax rate as well. I will touch on vacancy tax too, and the process of engaging AscendPoint. So without further ado, let's go straight into it. First of all, what is your real tax obligation when you invest in Australian property? We have been in this space for many, many years, and this is one of the things that especially foreign investors, there is a lot of confusion because landlord or start to hear different things from different people that say, oh, you know, you don't have to lodge your tax return because you are not a local in Australia, or you don't have to lodge your tax return because you have what we call a tax-free threshold and so forth. Now, unfortunately, most of the time when we hear client coming to us, they do need our help because they often, very, very often got the wrong advice from friends or relatives. So this is where I'm here to help you all. First of all, let's make this very, very simple. As a property owner, when you invest in Australian property, you have rental income, you must lodge your income tax return in Australia. This is not negotiable, okay? But I want to highlight a very important point. Lodgement of tax return does not mean you have to pay tax. It just means you have to tell the Australia Taxation Office what is happening in your situation, which is very, very important, okay? So, to lodge your Australian tax return, you must have an Australian tax file number. So for clients who or investors who might have studied in Australia before and therefore have an Australian tax file number, don't worry, you can use the same tax file number. But for investors who have not have any prior dealings with Australia, don't worry, we will be able to assist you to apply for an Australian tax file number. You do not even need to fly to Australia to have that done. We will be able to manage the process for you. Obviously, we will need some documentation, but not to worry. It will be able to be achieved relatively, I would use the word relatively simple in a way, but at least you do not need to fly all the way to Australia just to get your tax file number. And especially, you know, with COVID challenges that the world is facing. After that, you got to submit your income tax return on an annual basis, okay? Annually. The financial year in Australia starts from 1st of July up until to 30th of June. Okay, you must submit your tax return on an annual basis. This is determined by the Australian Taxation Office. So sometimes we do see some confusion among investors as well to say, oh, you know, I only have received 6 months of rental. I have not received 12 months of rental yet. Therefore, I don't need to file my tax return. No, unfortunately, it does not work that way. So the tax office does expect the taxpayer to file the tax return, okay, every by the lodgement date, which I'm going to talk about very, very soon. So Once the financial year ends, the tax office will expect you to file your tax return by 31st of October, which is 4 months after the financial year has ended. Okay, so they do not take into consideration whether you have received 12 months or 6 months of rental. Okay, so do take note of this. Now, naturally, as a registered tax agent with the Australia Taxation Office, we do get certain, I would use the word privileges when we deal with the tax office. Now, why do I say that is, sometimes we understand a lot of our clients are very, very busy business people or very, very busy people doing their, running their own. Choon, I do need an extension. Not to worry, we'll be able to apply an extension for our client if need be. If the extension is granted, it can be extended up until mid-May the following year. Okay, so let's use a very simple example. For the financial year that will be ending 30th of June 2021, the normal lodgement date will be you have to file by 31st of October 2021. If we are to apply for an extension and for the extensions to be granted, it can be extended up until mid-May 2022, which is almost 11.5 months after the financial year has ended. Okay, this is very, very useful for a lot of our clients. Now, but there are 2 points which is very, very important that you must remember. First of all, in order to be eligible for the extension, we must have the extension submitted and approved before 31st of October. This is point 1. Why do I say that? That is the tax office expectation. If you come to me even on 1st of November and say, Choon, I need an extension, unfortunately, I will not be able to help you because it has already passed the deadline. Okay, so that's point 1. Point 2, excuse me. It is not unusual for clients to have what we call overdue tax returns, because a lot of times clients, because having received the wrong advice from different people along the way, they do not know they need to file, and therefore they have a couple of years of tax return that have not filed. So if there's any what we call outstanding tax returns, unfortunately the tax office will not grant an extension as well. This is where in this situation, if our client is in this situation, we'll work very, very hard to get them, bring them back up to speed in terms of all their outstanding and overdue tax returns. Once it's all updated, in the future, when the client needs an extension, the tax office will forget and forgive, and an extension will be granted for the next tax return if required. Okay, so that is very, very important. Now, I would like to share with everyone here the tax rates for the financial year 2021. As you can see, the first tax bracket, you can see that the first tax bracket is 32.5%. There's our first tax bracket. So when you have a taxable income of $1 to $90,000, that is your tax rate. And naturally, if you have a taxable income of $90,000 to $180,000, you will go to the second tax bracket. Now, I do know it looks scary, but don't worry. This is why we are having this information session to explain to you truly how does the Australian taxation work. So, but one thing that I do want everyone to help me to do, remember the first tax bracket, the tax rate is 32.5%. That's important because I want to prove a point to you via our case study. So before we do that, I want to quickly touch on about vacancy tax. Vacancy tax, what is vacancy tax? First of all, vacancy tax, as the name suggests, is the government want to impose a tax if the property is not being tenanted. Okay, why are they doing that? Because the government want to discourage people I guess, investors from purchasing a home, an apartment, a house, and then leaving it empty. That is what the government. There are two components of what we call this vacancy tax. Now, the first component is imposed by the Australian Taxation Office. So under the Australian Taxation Office regime, it states that if a property is not occupied for more than 183 days in a year, it is deemed vacant, and therefore a vacancy tax needs to be paid. Now, the State Revenue Office also imposed their own version of the vacancy tax. Okay, in a similar context, the State Revenue Office, the Victoria State Revenue Office, defined to say the home that is for inner and middle Melbourne, if it's vacant for more than 6 months, okay, in the preceding calendar year, then you need to pay vacancy tax too. Okay, but usually I'm not too concerned about vacancy tax, because when you are investing in Australia and you're leasing your property out, you don't have to worry, because when you have a tenant, therefore you will not need to worry about vacancy tax. So you do not need to pay the vacancy tax to the Australia Taxation Office or the Victoria State Revenue Office. Okay. Now, naturally, unfortunately, the whole world is going through this right now. We are going through the COVID-19 pandemic. So, if you have if in your mind you're thinking, oh, what about if right now, due to COVID-19, I can't get my tenant, I can't get a tenant, so do I still have to pay the vacancy tax? You will be happy to know, no, there are exemptions, and you must engage a property manager. For example, the Jalin team has a division, their property management team can help you to look for a tenant. Now, why I'm saying that is because the provisions by the government does say, if you can prove you are actively advertising and looking for a tenant, the vacancy tax will not be applicable for you. Okay, in short. So don't worry about it, because as I said, if you're renting it out, there's nothing to worry about during this COVID-19. If you're concerned about the challenge of finding a good tenant, if you have an arrangement with a property manager, you would also therefore be exempted from paying the vacancy tax. So now I will go through a very, very simple case study in regards to when you invest in a property in Australia. So let's talk about Michael, which is our case study participant. Okay, Michael is a foreign resident, bought a property in Australia on 1st of July for $462,000, earning a yield of $450 per week for his rental income. He decides to borrow only 50% of the investment property with an interest rate of, let's say, 4.8% per annum. So when we come to about worrying about taxes, what do we need to consider? Naturally, rental income. So for Michael, he will be deriving a rental income of approximately 23,000 Australian dollar. What are the tax deductions that we can deduct? Correct. Interest on loan. When we are borrowing from the bank, the interest that we are paying to the bank will be tax deductible. So in this example, approximately $11,000 will be tax deductible against our rental income. Now, just to quickly highlight this as well, the Taxation Office also do allow interest to be deducted even if you are financing not from Australia. So if you're even financing, let's say from Indonesia bank, or even if you have an account or you're financing from Hong Kong or Singapore, it will still be tax deductible. However, we have to go through the process of making sure everything do stack up according to the Australia Taxation Office expectations and requirement. So for clients who are having offshore funding, we strongly suggest that you have a conversation with us to make sure you're doing the right thing, you're complying with the tax office expectation, so that the interest that's being generated will be tax deductible. Depreciation. In Australia, when you invest in property, the depreciation for the building and furniture and fittings in your investment property is tax deductible. Okay, this is one of the things that which is quite interesting, is it's quite different from a lot of countries, and I'll explain to that slightly a bit more. Now, first of all, in order to be eligible to claim this depreciation, this report must be prepared by a registered quantity surveyor with the Australian Taxation Office. So that's the first requirement. Once this report is being prepared, we can then claim depreciation on a yearly basis. The report usually costs around $700 to $800. It's a once-off report, and you can use it for the next 40. Okay, 40, which is very, very good. Now, this is important, and typically we do suggest our client to invest into a depreciation report because it will help you to be able to claim more against your rental income. The other point I would like to also point out, which is very important, is one of my client in her earlier days of investment in Australian property, she was slightly confused about this depreciation, and then she said, "Oh, you know, Choon, I do not want to prepare a depreciation report." Then I said, "Okay, why? What is your logic behind this?" So she said, "Oh, you know, because I'm concerned when I sell my property, I do not want the value of my property to depreciate." Okay, there's a fair question. So this is where you have to be very, very clear. When we are claiming depreciation in preparing your tax return, this is a purely tax concept. Has nothing to do with your selling price. Should you decide to sell your investment property in the future, what is going to determine your selling price? The market. Willing buyer, willing seller, which is you. So naturally, when we are in a good market, you will be able to sell more. If you're in the bad market, naturally, you're not going to be sell for the price as high as you wish. That is just the pure, simple economics of a free market. Okay, so do not be concerned about how the depreciation report is going to impact on your selling price in the future. Honest corporation. Naturally, for honest corporations, you know, you have to pay what we call the management fee, that they are going to look after the general upkeeping of the general areas, your lifts, gyms, and so forth. So those expenses are also tax deductible. Excuse me. Now, you're going to engage a property manager to help you to find tenant, collect rental, and if there are any repairs and maintenance requirement, they are going to help you to deal with all this. So the fees that you pay to a property management team will be tax deductible as well. Now, we are a registered tax agent. Our fees is tax deductible too. Okay. Now, first of all, for anyone who is using, let's say, an unlicensed operator, an unlicensed tax agent, first of all, it has already become an illegal activity that people cannot provide a tax agent services without being registered. Number one. Number two, if anyone who's using an unregistered tax agent, whatever fees that's being paid to them will not be tax deductible. Now, the reason that I put a question mark is not because we charge question mark. It's for the fact that we do see a very, very big variation of clients' needs. We have clients who have 1 property. We have clients who have 10 properties. We have clients who even have 20 investment properties in Australia. We have clients who want to migrate, run a business in Australia, although they are still running their business in Indonesia. They are just diversifying. It's very, very common. So why I'm saying that is because we provide a customized solution, a customized quotation for our clients based on your needs. Okay? So this is why, without confusing people, we strongly suggest that to get a quotation, speak to us. We want to understand your situation, and then after that, okay, we will provide you a no commitment, no obligation quotation. But however, in saying that, just to put some numbers for the purpose of this case study, let's assume our fees is $499 Australian dollar. So in this case study, you will see you have a total rental income of $23,000 and a total deductions of $24,000 approximately. If you're thinking, oh, okay, how about other things? What other things can I deduct? Now, first of all, for the purpose of this webinar, I only have selected the key items for discussion purpose. There are other things that is going to be tax deductible as well. So for example, if you say, oh, I want to purchase an insurance, okay, that will be tax deductible too. Okay, a landlord insurance is tax deductible. Now, in this case study, you can see there is a tax loss of almost $800. Okay. Now, coming back to this is the key question. Every landlord is asking, how much tax is payable? 0. There's no tax payable. Now, this is very important. Remember just now earlier, I asked all our attendees today to remember what is our tax rate for our first tax record. Do you remember that? 32.5%, right? Now, the reason that I'm highlighting this is a lot of times investors, without truly understanding, they say, oh, you know, looking at the Australian tax rate is very high. Therefore, I do not want to invest in Australia. I'm concerned about the tax rate in Australia. And then they say, oh, you know, if I'm receiving around 20,000 of rental income, I'm paying around, you know, $6,000 of taxes. That's too much. No, as you can see, in this case study, you do not need to pay tax at all. Now, coming back to our case study, okay, there's a couple of points that is very, very important. This tax loss can be carried forward to offset against your future income. So let's assume we have a tax loss of $800 in this financial year. In the next financial year, let's say you have another $1,000 of tax loss. It gets accumulated to the next year. And let's say year 2, you have another 1,000. So it will continue to accumulate, you know, 800, 1,000 year 2, another 1,000 year 3. You have, you know, 2008 of tax losses. This is very important. Why? We can offset this against your future income when you decide to dispose your property on when you have a positive taxable income position. It's very, very crucial. Now, the other good thing that you will be happy to know is there is no expiry date on these tax losses. There's no time limit to say, oh, you must use it, let's say, within the next 2 years or within the next 3 years and so forth. You can continue to carry this forward to the future. The effective tax rate. Let's think about it for a moment. The first tax bracket is 32.5%. If you think about it carefully, what is the effective tax rate in the case study? I actually deem it to be negative tax rate. Why? We have $800 of tax losses, which we can carry forward, and I'm not paying any taxes. So think about it from that perspective. It's very important to really truly consider what is the real effective tax rate that we have in Australia. Some key reminders for all our participants today. You must keep all your documents relating to your Australian investment property. Now, I know a lot of times you're not exactly sure what should I keep or what I should not keep. We want to make it simple for you. Anything that relates to your Australian investment property, you must keep those documents and give it to us a complete set of information. When we have a complete set of information, we will review these documents and we will claim what we can claim. Whatever we can't claim, we are just going to ignore those documents. That is simple and easy. It's crucial. Why? Because if you tell us, oh, you know, I have spent these expenses and so forth, but you can't provide us with the documents, without any documentation, unfortunately, the tax office will not accept the eligibility of the tax deductions. No proof, no claim. So very, very important. Make sure you have all your documents. File your documents according to the financial year. That is going to make life easier for you and for us. Once again, a reminder, the financial year in Australia starts from 1st of July up until the 30th of June. As mentioned, AscendPoint is going to review all your documents and we are going to maximize your claim. Whatever we can claim, we are going to claim for you. Whatever we can't claim, we are just going to purely ignore that document. Okay, that is going to ensure we are going to achieve the best position for you. Now, the process of engaging AscendPoint, as mentioned earlier, we are going to offer a no obligation customized quotation for you. Once you're happy with our quotation and accept our quotation, we do need some personal details. So as the landlord or as a business owner, you're going to provide us with your information, your personal information that we do need. We are then going to issue our engagement letter to clearly state what we are doing for you and what are our agreed fees. This is to avoid any confusion and miscommunication. You can sign our engagement letter, email it back to us. Right now, we are even using digital signing. It's perfectly acceptable. Once that comes back to us, we will be able to help you and to act on your behalf when we deal with the Australian Taxation Office. Once again, thank you everyone for attending our webinar today. Hope you and also I would like to take this opportunity to thank Jarlene team and Andy as well to be organizing this webinar for us too. So once again, my name is Choon. These are my contact details. If you have any questions and would like to get a quotation, please feel free to email us at marketing@ascendpoint.com.au. Also, you can, for those who are ready and would like to appoint us, please, you can use this QR scan that you see on screen, and then that's going to bring you to a form that you can complete for us, that we can get some basic information, and then we can, from there, we will contact you to get any information that you might not have given, any missing information, so that we can give you a quotation as well. So once again, thank you everyone for your time. I will now pass everyone back to Andy.
Yeah, thank you, Choon Chong. Ya, tadi kita sudah dengar bahwa betapa pentingnya untuk kita daftarkan kita punya istilah kata properti kita untuk teks. Mengapa begitu? Sebenarnya tadi kita lihat juga dari Mr. Choon Chong said bahwa jika kita mulai dari serah terima, kita sudah pakai tax consultant, kedepannya nanti kita filing semua harus lebih teratur, dan pada saat nanti kita mau menjual kembali unit kita, maka akan ada tax deduction, baik dari kita bayar pinjaman, kita bayar dari sisi cancel, ataupun nanti kita punya depreciation dari building, depreciation dari furniture, dan lain sebagainya. Dan itu sangat menguntungkan bagi para investor. Mengapa demikian? Let's say, tadi Mr. Choon Chong udah bilang bahwa akan kena tax sebesar 32,5%. Dan tax itu ada dapatkan bukan dari nilai jual, tetapi dari buffer antara nilai kita beli dengan keuntungan kita. Maka itu dibilang capital gain tax. Dari capital gain tax yang harus kita bayar, akan ada tax deduction karena satu, kita pinjam ke bank, kedua, kita depresiasi, dan juga kita ada keluar biaya-biaya lainnya. Dan yang paling sangat penting adalah apabila Anda harus mendokumentasi semua file-file secara financial annually. Maksudnya dalam artian, jika kita ada pinjaman, kita harus mendata semuanya, nanti kita akan kirim ke AscendPoint. Jika kita ada pengeluaran cancel dan lain sebagainya, itu pun juga harus annual. Kita kumpulkan dan akan kita serahkan ke AscendPoint. Jadi plus minusnya bahwa adalah, jika kita memiliki properti di Australia, saran saya tidak usah bayar cash atau cash keras kita bilang. Bahkan ada klien yang bertanya bahwa, oke, apabila saya bayar cash, apakah saya akan mendapat diskon? Tidak, karena secara sistem properti di Australia adalah DP awal 10%, kemudian setelah bangunan jadi, baru bayar DP selanjutnya. Misalkan, kita bayar 20% lagi, baru selesai dengan pinjaman atau loan sekitar 70%. Jadi klien tidak bisa dari awal saya akan bayar full 100%, tidak bisa, karena ada peraturan di Australia yang mengharuskan Anda hanya membayar awal 10%. Dan DP 10% bukan masuk ke developer, tapi DP 10% itu ada di trust account atau solicitor account. Jadi pihak ketiga, di mana jika sewaktu-waktu developer tidak jadi bangun, maka uang DP 10% Anda akan kembali ke Anda 100% tanpa ada potongan apapun. Gitu. Baik, sekian dulu acara live webinar dari Jalin Realty. Kita akan bertemu lagi. Sampai jumpa.